Qatar HR Conference 2022. I would like to introduce the moderator for this session, Ms. Aisha Sulaiman, Group Director of HR Development Practice. Ms. Aisha has more than 14 years of experience in the strategic human resource field in UAE. Turnaround and integration specialist with expertise in leading organizations through transformation or cultural and leadership transformation journeys. She holds a master's degree in global human resource management from the University of Liverpool, UK. She is also a certified compensation and benefits manager and a certified strategist. Ms. Aisha, welcoming you as the moderator. Kindly take forward the second session.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome again to the Qatar Conference 2022, an amazing virtual event, an informative HR platform. I'm sure that you guys are enjoying it as much as I'm enjoying it so far, with all these informations about the HRs and things are taking over. So now we are starting the session 2, and in session 2 we are having a lot of interesting topics. Our first topic will be about upskilling national workforce, the reality of GCC countries. The topic will be presented by Mr. Abdurrahman Shaib, who is the Director of HR at Institute of Public Administration. Let me give you a brief introduction about Mr. Shail. He's an award-winning HR leader, helping organizations drive operational and employee experience enhancements through the alignment of business and people strategies, recognized for an innovative approach on recruitment, retention, compensation and benefits, payroll, policy development, and performance management, known for refining and implementing the strategic plan for HR, overseeing processes and programs for supporting HR transformation. Welcome, Mr. Abdurrahman.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you for the attendees to be in this conference. So I will talk about the upskilling national workforce, the reality of GCC countries. If you allow me, I'm going to share a really quick presentation. So, in the Middle East, we started nationalization programs. What I mean about it is that there is an issue with qualifying citizens of the GCC to work in jobs, specifically in the private sector. So I'm going to cover different aspects. I'm going to show some statistics, and I will show also some recommendations in that matter. So the challenge that we face in the GCC that a lot of jobs have changed. If you look at the history of specifically working for the government, because the challenge that we're facing that we have two different systems. We have the government jobs and we have the private sector or corporate jobs. So the problem that most citizens of the GCC tend to work for the government. If you look at the history, the civil service, the government jobs, the requirements historically were not really high. A lot of the countries, we see that hiring citizens is a must. They need to get jobs. But what happened lately that the government itself and governments of the GCC start changing. In Saudi Arabia, we have the 2030 vision. I know that in UAE, they have several programs. In Qatar, they have several programs. So things are changing. With the fast pace of changing in the GCC, in the labor market, there is I would say, a challenge in getting citizens to work on these jobs. As you know, by 2030, several researches has been done that there are requirements for future jobs. Resilience, adaptability, teamwork and collaboration, creativity and innovation, self-development, leadership and people management, emotional intelligence, several competencies that if you want to work, in the current environment, you need to have these skills. You need to have these traits. The challenge, as I said, for a percentage of citizens in the GCC, we don't have these skills. Sometimes we lack experience in some industries. So, as I said, the challenge is we have a gap between the requirements, what the organization need, and the people or the citizens of the GCC was looking for jobs. So this is the challenge that we're facing. Let me show you some stats about what's going on in the GCC. So first, if you can see at the graph that I'm showing on the presentation, it shows that the national workforce in the GCC versus the non-national workforce in the GCC. As you notice that since 2019 until now, there is some increasement in the national workforce in the GCC, and there is a little bit decrease in the non-national workforce. That's a good indication that in the GCC, we realize that we have to prepare citizens to work. A lot of initiatives has been established. I'm going to talk about it a little bit, but just to give you an understanding of how the ratio of non-nationals versus nationals in the GCC in terms of the workforce. I cannot talk about nationalization without talking about the employment rate or unemployment percentages. As you can see, I'm showing statistics of the unemployment rates in the GCC. We're not the same. Each country has its own challenges. Each country has its own problems that they're trying to deal with. I understand that the pandemic has affected the unemployment rate big time. Some countries are recovering from that. If you can notice that this is in Saudi Arabia. They have, we recovered a little bit from the pandemic. Other countries, they still trying to initiate some programs to get over what the pandemic has done to the businesses and the labor market in general. Over here, I'm showing the national workforce of the total workforce in the GCC. For example, in Saudi Arabia, the national workforce is 45.9% of the total workforce in the country. In Qatar, it's 5.2. In Kuwait, it's 15.3. In Oman, it's 23.7. And in Bahrain, it's 28.4. So this will show the percentage of the national workforce in these countries in the GCC. And overall, and I have been talking to several, individuals who's, working on this matter. I have never heard that the ultimate goal of any of countries in the GCC is to have 100% nationals working in the labor market, or to present the whole workforce. The problem is that they want to have a balance. They want to have a balance between the national workforce versus the non-national workforce, and also they always welcome experienced skilled workers, and they as I said, they want just to have the balance between the two. I think it's really important to talk about the practices in other countries. Like in the United States, they have programs for non-US citizens workforce. They have a point system that look at the qualifications, skills, experience, previous experience, so they can grant a work visa. In the UK, I have looked at their experience. They have free programs. They have each program. They have its own requirements. In Singapore, they also have 4 programs for the non-Singaporean workforce. In Malaysia, they have 3 programs, and these programs allow them to recruit what they need in terms of the workforce based on their skills, their qualifications, and what they can add to overall economy of these countries. When we call it, I'm just going to the bottom line. I have only 15 minutes. There's a lot of things to say, but based on our research and what we have done in terms of nationalization programs, we think that the challenge in the GCC is not only qualifications, but also other factors. The best way to describe it is that we have it's an issue of a whole ecosystem. First of all, we have noticed that the outcomes of schools does not prepare students to the workforce to be ready to join the workforce. I know that a lot of countries now in the GCC, they're trying to change their curriculum, but still there's a challenge with the outcomes of schools. Also, there's a challenge with the vocational training. Some of the programs that we have seen, unfortunately, we have seen some graduates who graduated from vocational colleges, but still they're not qualified to work and join the workforce. Also, the training programs that they provide, there's like a really minor practical experience that they can get out of it. Also, the co-op programs or cooperation programs, we have seen that students join organizations or companies or ministries, but they don't take it seriously. So it's a matter of an ecosystem problem. It's not a matter of one aspect that we can fix. Without fixing the whole ecosystem, the GCC will keep getting challenges. I want to focus on one thing. The biggest challenge that we face in the GCC, it's a cultural thing. Unfortunately, we have I would say, kind of specific culture that we don't accept working in certain jobs. We don't accept working in certain industries. I know that our experience in Saudi Arabia with hotel managers, for example, when we started encouraging citizens to work in hotels, it was a big challenge for us in Saudi Arabia because they did not accept that culturally. They have the skills, they don't have jobs, they're looking for jobs, but the problem is when you say, hey, we get you a job, but you're gonna work in a hotel, that's a challenge. They say, oh, we cannot work in a hotel. People will look down at us. But what happened with us is we did programs to help them to cope with the new culture. Ministry of Labor at that time, they did a campaign to help citizens to understand that working in hotels is not a problem, and it's worked out. I remember personally. I remember that when I first saw a Saudi citizen working at McDonald's, was a while ago. I was with my friends, and we noticed that there's a Saudi working at McDonald's, and we get shocked a little bit, like why he's working at McDonald's. We're not supposed to work at McDonald's. That was a big challenge. However, because we work in certain programs, we make it more appealing. We did several campaigns, and to be honest, the need for a job, all these factors help us to get over it. However, with that being said, we still have a lot of cultural challenges when it comes to working in certain industries. I concluded my presentation with a few recommendations. We recommend that there should be a progression in terms of getting the national workforce in certain industries. I know one experience that one of the ministries in the GCC, they tried to get national nurses working in hospital in a really quick way. The result was not as positive as they thought. So getting things gradually is really important, making sure that people qualify to do the job. I also recommend that there should be workshop communication between private sector, government sectors, businesses, to understand what are the challenges, what they can do. The last thing, legislations. I think raising minimum wages is really important. Encouraging entrepreneurs and startups, providing programs that give support for people who want to start their own businesses. And we have started that in Saudi, and I know that they have the same thing in UAE and other countries. Is really important. My final conclusion is, I don't know if you have watched the movie A Day Without a Mexican. We don't want to get rid of the non-national workforce. This is not the goal. The thing is, we at the GCC, we have challenges. The population are increasing, and there should be a balance. Qualifying citizens is really important, but with graduate steps, not taking it as like a dramatic change, and working on the ecosystem, working on the culture. Without a culture, we will not be able to achieve our goals. Thank you so much.
Great presentation, Mr. Abdurrahman, with very good insights and informative tips on the international practices, as well as sharing your recommendation. Thank you so much, Mr. Abdurrahman, for the presentation. And of course, we'll have a couple of questions at the end of the three topics, and we'll have a Q&A at that time. Thank you once again. Now it's a time for our second topic, which will be about 12 easy steps for measuring the ROI of learning and development. This interesting topic will be presented by Mr. Nader Bacini. He's the director of ROI Institute in the MENA region, an international expert in measurement and evaluation. He's passionate about assisting human capital professionals and organizations improve and maximize their performance and effectiveness. His life mission is to support others to strengthen their abilities, to inspire, influence, and create an impact. For more than 20 years, Nader facilitated workshops, managed talent development programs, consulted with public, private, and nonprofit organizations. He has been awarded with different awards, like Best International Implementation of the ROI methodology in 2015, 19, and 20. And he got also an award of Best African HR Expert in 2019. Nader holds a master's degree in marketing from Tunis Al Manar University and Leadership Development Certificate from INSEAD Executive Education in France. Welcome, Nader, and the floor is yours. You have 15 minutes to present your presentation. Good luck.
Thank you so much, Aisha. Hello, everyone. I'm very honored to be here today in this amazing conference. And I'd like to start by building on Abdurrahman's session about upskilling the national workforce. And one of his recommendations is about making sure that we evaluate the program to upskill the national workforce and to link it with the job market. So there should be some alignment here. And that's what we are going to talk about now. First, we're going to discuss why it's important to think about measurement and evaluation and to consider ROI. And then we are going to go through 12 easy steps. And I'd like to emphasize on the word here, easy, because they are very easy, very simple to adopt. One of the myths of the ROI methodology, it's complicated and it requires a high level of statistics and analysis. The truth, that is not. It's very simple. It's straightforward methodology that help you to show the value and to show the impact of what you are doing in learning and development. So let's start first with the why it's important to consider ROI. The first reason is to stand out, to be different. That means to get more budget, to win project, whether you are learning development manager in organization or HR manager, or you are a provider for learning development service. So we need to be different to stand out. That's the first reason. The second one is to have a proof, because we need to have some justification of the investment in learning and development, investment in HR. So we need to justify for the executive, for the CFO, for the sponsor of the program, what are the results of our learning and development different program. And then impact and ROI is considered to be an opportunity. So this is a future opportunity in learning and development with the data analytics in most of the organization. So we have a lot of data and measuring the impact of our program. This is a great opportunity in future for learning and development. So here we have a transfer from the L&D department. It was like order taker from different other department. We take order, we take request. It moved to business partner, and now we are business maker. So that means learning and development are business maker in the organization, whether government organization, whether private organization or non-profit organization. And then the last reason is to win a seat at the table, to show that in other department that we have an influence in the organization, that we can contribute to the result. We can save cost, we can increase productivity, we can save time. So we know that we can do that, but we need some data, we need some justification. And the 12 steps that we are going to see now will help us to make it clear for us, to make it very easy. We know what step each one of you can take today or tomorrow. So let's start first with the step number one. Step number one of the process is start with why. Whenever we have a request for any initiative, for any project, any program, we need to ask the following question: why you want this program now? Start with why, mean understand the payoff need. So what is the payoff need in the organization? If you think about any training program, it could be an opportunity for our organization. So we'd like to have, let's say, the best workforce. We would like to have to improve our reputation. We would like to increase our market share. So those are opportunity. In our university, we would like to have, say, a high graduation rate for our student. So that's an opportunity. Or it could be a learning and development program. It's a solution to a problem. So we have a problem in our government. We have a problem in our organization. And that's why we would like to conduct this training program to solve that problem. The third reason, it's a problem to avoid. So here we'd like to avoid the future problem. That's why we implement this training program actually. So the payoff need is why this program now. Once we understand what is the payoff need, then we try to identify the business measures. We call this one the business need. In any organization, whether it's a private, it's a government, or it's a non-profit, there are two categories of data. The first one we call the hard data. Second one is soft data. For the hard data, there are four: the output, the quality measures, the cost, and the time. Think about any training program you are managing actually. It should be linked to one of these different hard data. Also, there are some soft data like the customer satisfaction, employees engagement, innovation, work habits, client satisfaction, trust, collaboration, better communication. So all these are considered to be soft data. So in the first step of the process, we need to start with why, identify the payoff need and the business need. Step number 2 is make it feasible. So once we know where we are going, what are the business measures, what is the business need from our organization, step number 2 is make it feasible. Make it feasible means understanding the performance need in terms of behavior, what need to be changed in terms of behavior, in terms of process, in terms of action. Also, the learning need, what the staff, what the employees need to learn differently. And then the preference need, so how the solution should be structured. So all these 3 types of need under the make it feasible. So starting with why and make it feasible are important step to go for the third step, which is expecting success. Expecting success means identifying the objective of our solution. Usually the objective are learning objective in many training program, but we want to expand those objectives above learning objective. So we have the application objective, what the employees need to do differently. Also, we have the impact objective. What is the consequence of what they are doing in the organization? And ultimately, we have the ROI objective. So 5 levels of objective. With those objectives in hand, now it's possible for us to do the measurement of the 5 levels of evaluation: reaction, learning, application, impact, and return on investment, and the ROI. Once we have those objectives, the final step in this process is to do the planning. So we have the data collection plan and the ROI analysis plan. 2 simple documents that will help us to plan for the evaluation, for successful execution and for the management supports. So those are the 3 first steps of the process. Start with why, make it feasible, expect success. They are under the phase of planning for the evaluation. Now, once we start implement our program, we need to collect the data about the reaction of the participant and about the learning. We call this make it matter. So here we collect the data about reaction, relevance of the program, importance, value added, coach or facilitator or consulting effectiveness, recommendation to others. So are the participant willing to recommend this program to others? And also we measure learning by measuring the awareness, the skills, the knowledge, the attitude, and the competency. So those 2 topics, we have different data collection methods that we can use. For the reaction, we can use questionnaire, observation, interview, and focus group. For the learning, we still can use the same, plus test, demonstration, simulation, role play. So we have 7 different tools that we can use to measure the learning. Most of the learning and development professionals consider only applying the test. The test is one of the effective tools, but there are different other tools that we can use and in measuring and evaluating the learning. But measuring the reaction and learning, this is not what the C-level expect to see from our program. They want to see some application on the job, and they want to see some business impact, ultimately some ROI. So that's the step number 5, is to make it stick. This is when we collect the data after the solution implementation. We measure the application and we measure the business impact. By application here, our focus is on the extent of use of the new skills, the task completion, the frequency of use, the barriers and enablers. For the impact, we measure the hard data, the output, the quality, the cost, the time, and also we measure some of the soft data like the customer satisfaction or employees engagement. The data collections tools for the application and impact are questionnaire, observation, interview, focus group, action planning, and performance contract for the application. And for the business impact level 4, we use a questionnaire, we use action plan, performance contract, and the performance record from the organization. So those are the data collection steps. Make it matter, make it stick. Now, with all this data, when we are going to present it to the executive, they are going to say, oh, look, there is some improvement, but this is not only because of training. There are many other interventions. We have the marketing department, they did a great effort. We have the finance, we have different department organization that they contributed to this improvement. So we call this step number 6, make it credible, isolate the effect of learning and development. We need to do some isolation because the total improvement is not only due to our project. There are external factors, some internal factors, changes in standards and process, management attention, incentives. So we need to know what is the contribution of our program. There are different techniques for the isolation. Here's 8 of those techniques. The first technique is the control group. Second one, the trend line analysis. Third one is using forecasting technique or participant estimate. We have also customer input, the expert estimate and previous study, and also we can use the management or supervisors estimate, or simply by calculating and estimating the impact of other factors. So this is critical step. This is one important step for the credibility of our measurement and evaluation. That's called the isolation. The next step, number 7, is to convert data to money. So we need to convert all this measure to monetary value. The point here that not everything can be converted to money. There are some techniques for converting, but the measures that could not be converted to money should be reported as intangible. We talk here some measures like happiness, like trust. They cannot be converted to monetary value. So we call this one intangible, and we are going to report in a later step. So for the technique for converting data to money, we have 4 main techniques. The first one is standard value. Second one is record report analysis. Third one is using the database, external database or internal database. And the fourth one is using the expert estimation. So those are the techniques for converting data to money. So with the benefit monetarized in value, step number 9, we have the no monetary value, which we call the intangible benefit. So also we need to report it because many of the learning and development programs are implemented because of those intangibles, like building trust, collaboration, better communication. So all these are intangible, and we conducted the program because of those intangible that we need to report to the senior management. Step number 9 is to calculate the cost of our solution. So usually what we think about the cost is the cost of provider, cost of designing, facility, travel. That's a direct cost. But also there are some indirect costs that we need to calculate, like the time we spent in needs assessment. It can be 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. The time we spent in program development. The participant time, the time they are spending in attending the training session. So all this, they are paid for that time. So we need to put it as indirect cost, the administrative overhead and the evaluation expenses. So all these are considered indirect cost. So with the benefit, monetary benefit in hand and the cost in the other hand, The step number 10 is to calculate the ROI. The formula is very simple. Benefit minus cost divided by the cost multiplied by 100. That's the ROI formula. Example, a program costing 50,000. The benefit is 125,000. So the ROI in this case is 150%. What does it mean? For each dollar, for each real we spent in this project, the dollar is returned, and extra $1.5 is generated. Step number 11 is to present all this data. This is an important step because if we did all this data analysis, data collection, and we didn't present it in the proper way, so all of our effort can be wasted. So here we talk about selecting the right audience. The participant themselves, they need to know what the results of their program, the manager of the participant, the sponsor who are funding this program, and also the learning and development team within our organization. Those are the primary audience. And the last step of the process is called optimizing results. So the purpose of the evaluation is to make it better, to make our program better, to adjust it. By making it better, we can improve the results, we can optimize. And the optimization will lead us to allocation, to get more funding for our learning and development program. So we use here what we call the black box thinking. So the black box thinking is taken from the aviation industry. It's the same principle. In the airplane, we have two black boxes, one for recording the flight data, one other for recording the conversation in the cockpit. So the same principle, we can apply it in learning and development by recording all the data that we collect from the reaction of participants, the learning, the application, the impact. Those data will help us to make our program better and to increase its effectiveness. So those are the 12 steps. Step number 1, start with why. Step number 2, make it feasible. Number 3, expect success. Number 4, make it matter. Number 5, make it stick. Number 6, make it credible by isolate the effect of learning and development. Number 7, convert data to money. Number 8, tabulate the cost. Number 9 is to calculate the ROI. 10, identify the intangible. 11, tell the story and present the data. Number 12 is to optimize the results. So those are the 12 steps of the process. So I'd like to end this session by this quote. So if we'd like to get some results, some impact, some positive ROI, so we need to plan for it, to design for it. It will not happen otherwise. So we got some habit that we need to change, some processes we need to correct. When it comes to measuring to the results of our program, the results that executive want, hope is not a strategy, luck is not a factor, and doing nothing is not an option. Things have changed in terms of what we need to present as a results. Change is inevitable. Progress is optional. It's up to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nader, for this informative presentation and really making it very easy for us as in 12 steps how to evaluate and measure the ROI. We'll keep the questions for the end of the session, and it's the time for our third and last topic. The topic will be about developing a coaching culture in the organization. This topic will be presented by Mr. Robert Gracio. Mr. Robert is a Global Strategic Development Director at the International Coaching Federation, ICF, engages organization to join ICF coaching to support the development of internal coaching culture. He has held a senior level positions at Randstad, SHRM, Baxit Health, Florida International University, LHH, ADP, and United Healthcare. He appointed a Master of Business Administration at FIU, has a Bachelor of Science in Management from Nova Southeastern University, HR certifications from SHRM and HRCI, and is an executive coach. Robert is fluent in English and Spanish and has been interviewed for his perspective on business and career management. He is a frequent keynote speaker at conferences throughout the world and has presented in 6 continents. Please welcome Mr. Robert. Mr. Robert, you have 15 minutes to present your presentation, and the floor is yours.
It's a pleasure to be here. Assalamu alaikum. And thank you for the invitation. Thrilled to be here to share with you some perspectives on coaching today. Great. Thank you again. And this is obviously my experience. I've been in international business and HR for over 30 years, working for great companies. Have the privilege to work now with the International Coaching Federation. We are the largest organization of professionally trained coaches, the leading voice of the global coaching community. We have fortunate to have 55,000 members in 160 countries. We have an ecosystem with 6 family organizations that include individual as well as organizational membership. We also have credentials for coaches. We accredit training and education organizations to provide ICF accredited training. And then we have chapters and communities of practice depending on what type of coaching you would like and you have. I wanted to take a few minutes or just a few seconds to talk about coaching. What is coaching? Coaching is a thought-provoking, creative process really that inspires individuals to reach their maximum potential. Hopefully through coaching, you will untap resources of innovation, imagination, productivity, and excel in leadership. You will achieve your goals and overcome challenges. And as you see here, we have core values, including professionalism, collaboration, humanity, and equity. And those are integral to coaching within organizations. We also have core competencies that will really embody the development of or the delivery of coaching. And certainly active listening is an important part. The evoking of awareness and facilitating growth of clients is also very important in the coaching practice. Also wanted to highlight a little about what is coaching and what coaching is not. Obviously, it is confidential. It's a great relationship that is supportive. It gives individuals a space to think out loud, to experiment, to understand or reflect on ideas, generates possibilities, and hopefully structures things that will make things happen and things move. Coaching is not conflict resolution. It does not provide advice. It doesn't fix people. It's not policing or supervision. So it really is an innovative process with rich conversations to, again, elicit change in individuals to improve their overall productivity, life, and grow personally as well as professionally. Also, there's a difference between coaching and mentoring. Coaching is a much more formal process. It's a structured meetings. There are the coach asks questions. It's goal oriented. Whereas mentoring typically is less formal. The meetings are depending on the mentee or mentor, and it's experience-based. The mentor typically shares experiences with the mentee, and it is for overall development. But coaching really is more about having conversations to reach full potential of individuals through guided discussions. few years ago, we developed a study along with the Human Capital Institute, and we evaluated the building of a strong coaching culture for the future within organizations. And you see here some of the statistics that 78% strongly or somewhat agree that employees value coaching. Also, there are a number of senior executives, 75% of senior executives value coaching. Managers, leaders, and internal coaches receive accredited training programs and is an important part of organizations that are building this coaching culture, and that they use the three modalities of coaching, which are internal coaching, external coaching, and manager leader using coaching skills. Also, we find that organizations that have a strong coaching culture have coaching as a dedicated part of their budget. All employees also have an equal opportunity to coaching. We've done this study several years, and we're seeing that these numbers are increasing, which we're excited to see that everyone is interested in growing their coaching culture within their organization. We also have or are developing a designation for those organizations that are building a strong coaching culture. And we're using the study or the findings of the study to determine if these organizations have a strong coaching culture. So it's important for organizations to really value coaching, and it really starts with the senior leadership team, and then getting the accredited program so that individuals know how to coach and use all the different modalities with coaching, and make sure that everyone has an equal access to coaching throughout the organization. As Nadir was talking, certainly we have, it's important to really measure the impact that coaching has on organizations. And we talk about the return on expectations. Leaders can track qualitative and quantitative results as they improve the culture of coaching within the organizations through better communications and collaboration, making sure that there's heightened awareness and engagement throughout the organization. And you see here indicators that will tell you that coaching is having a positive impact on the organization, where you see absenteeism going down, satisfaction rates going up, feedback is very positive, certainly affects the performance appraisals or evaluations of individuals. And there is a return not only of expectations for recipients of coaching, but to the organization. And overall, there is an improved return on investment throughout the organization. Wanted to highlight several types of coaching. So we have from executive and business coaching, which is typically what we see in organizations. And then we have career coaching, which focuses on assisting individuals in progressing throughout their career, utilizing coaching or using a coach to assist them in progressing with their career journey. And then we also have group or team coaching that is gaining lots of momentum within organizations. We're also seeing lots of organizations or lots of leaders in organizations using coaching skills. And then we also have personal or life coaching that also is a large community of practice that is providing coaching for personal development and growth. Wanted to talk a little about professional coaching. And as I said earlier, coaching is a conversation focusing really on growth and development of the individual. Both parties, the coach and the coachee, come together willing to share experiences and really agree with clear expectations on what some of the objectives or the outcomes of the conversations are going to be. And there is a partnership where individuals are free to ask, say, and consider different options, enables really the coachee to discover and implement solutions or define goals that they may be able to accomplish or meet and exceed the expectations that are set out. A bit about team coaching. It establishes a partnership with individuals. You typically agree on sessions and the process. Goals are set, expectations and outcomes are defined. And then there is an opportunity to ask questions, provide solutions, and then review and really modify some of the objectives that are discussed, and perhaps modify those and repeat the process. And it's on an ongoing basis. It's typically for a period of time. A bit about the leader using coaching skills. So you see here that leaders can have better conversations through the use of coaching. And we know that leaders have to listen to understand, and this is part of coaching skills. Asking powerful questions as well, challenging and supporting their direct reports or their teams, and then establishing accountability and next steps and growing. So these are ways that leaders can use coaching skills to really manage their teams more effectively. Also wanted to share with you several coaching skills that includes listening, questioning, building this rapport between the coach and coachee, emphasizing putting yourself in the place of the individuals that are going through. Summarizing and reflective is another great coaching skill. Unlocking these limited beliefs, and obviously having a focus of the conversation, non-judgmental and being open-minded, giving feedback, and then the coach doesn't tell, the coach asks questions to really get the individual to really come up with solutions or possible scenarios so that they can continue to improve. Also wanted to share with you a large government agency that has developed a robust coaching culture within the organization. They started with an inspired vision. The senior leaders believed that coaching was essential to the growth and success of the organization. So the leadership team built a business case and presented it to the senior leadership team. They found a senior leader champion. They established metrics, went ahead and trained a core group of individuals that became coaches. They piloted the program with a phased approach throughout the organization. As they described their journey, they talked about having patience and persistence. They did have several obstacles that needed to be overcome, but through this patience and persistence, they were able to be successful. They adapted some of the processes with flexibility. And then obviously the participation in the program, both for coaches as well as coachees, was voluntary. And then they had a great opportunity, as we heard from Nadir, is to communicate and celebrate these successes throughout the organization. It's an important part of the return on engagement, or the return on the investment. Thank you very much. I look forward to hearing or answering any of the questions that you may have.
Thank you, Robert, for the very informative presentation, really having a lot of numbers and insights and facts, which really give us a good insight about the things which is going around in the coaching industry, really. I would start a question with you, Nader, about the ROI and making these easy steps for us. You have really pointed out on the intangible part, and we always, as an HR professional, feel it very difficult to convince the management on the intangible results of the trainings and development. So what would be your quick tip for the HR professionals in how to present these intangible results to the management to convince them once we come to the budget cycle or once we need to really implement new plans for the development?
Very good question, Aisha. So the most important question here when measuring the intangible is the data source from where we got those data, those intangibles. So in the methodology, we need to plan for the evaluation by making sure we identify the data source, who is going to provide us with those data, with those measures. In some organization, some intangibles measure, let's say, the customer satisfaction or the employees' engagement. Here we have this metric because it's implemented. We have this measurement for employees' engagement for some organization, but for other organizations, they don't have these measures. So in this case, the most, let's say, credible source could be the participant, could be the manager of the participant. So when we ask the participant and the manager of the participant about those intangible, so they are the most credible source, they can provide us with this data. If this data is not available in the KPI of the organization.
Good. Thank you, Nadra. And my next question would be to you, Abdurrahman. Abdurrahman, how can I get started with upskilling the national employees? What are the tips for starting that upskilling part?
It's a really good question. I think, as I mentioned, that we look at it as an ecosystem. The reason that several programs have failed is that they work solo. So it has to be a joint work. We cannot just work on certain program without considering the whole ecosystem. And that's why our recommendation is to have a communication between private and public sector, between Ministry of Education, higher education, to come up with a joint work. Without that, it's going to be challenging. I know that a lot of organizations, they work with it solely. So what they do is they create a program for training based on their needs. That will help. And we have seen programs that were successful, but to do a real impact, you need to work with different organizations at the same time, because if each entity works solely, it's going to be a challenge.
I totally agree with you, and that is the collective efforts which you need to make, not from one anchor, and working in silos will not really add any value. Thank you, Abdurrahman. Robert, how do we get as an organization started in establishing a coaching culture in the organization?
I think it starts with the senior leadership team. Typically, we have individuals in human resources or organizational development that have a goal, have a vision. That vision needs to be turned into a business case that is taken to the senior leadership team. And then I think you need a senior leader champion, someone that buys into creating this coaching culture and believes in investing in the future of the workforce, of their employees. This is a benefit to everyone. And once you have that, then you really start piloting the coaching process, perhaps start small and then scaling it to the rest of the organization. But really it starts with the senior leadership team being committed to investing in coaching, not just for select few, for everyone within the organization.
I totally agree with you. The top-down approach really helps in creating that culture and embed this coaching part on everyone. Thank you, Robert, for your answer. And going back to you, Nader, is there any way we can really maintain the positive ROI on the training?
So that's a great question. The good news, yes, there is, with the proper planning for the ROI. So in any program, if we design it correctly, if from the beginning we know where we are going, what are the results that we are looking to achieve, so here we can have a positive ROI. But the term of positive ROI is only for the monetary benefit. As we were talking, so the value of any project is not only monetary value. There are some no monetary value that we call the intangibles. So here we talk about the positive result of the program, whether it's monetary or non-monetary.
Sure.
So by having a proper planning for our project, designing effectively, then we can have the results that the senior executive would like to see.
The background of my question is that we as an HR professionals really would like to show that positive picture every time once we want to really show the training results. And this information is really informative for us how to maintain that part, because the first question they will ask how you evaluate, how you will maintain, how you will make sure that everything is going on the correct track. Thank you, Nader, for your.
You're welcome, Aisha.
Thank you. So Abdurrahman, back to you. What are some common mistakes the employer make in developing the employees or upskilling them?
Actually, based on what we have seen, I work with several organizations, and the challenge is that what they do is they don't know the actual needs of their employees. I'll give you an example. I know one of the organizations, they just want to revamp their employees, and they revamp their strategy, and they just want to revamp their human capital, human resources. What they did is that they went and checked the international trends and the international needs of HR. They didn't conducted a thorough needs analysis of what they need, and this is a really challenge. And I think it's challenging, especially with upper management and CEOs, because sometimes all what you need is really basic programs that are going to make a change. I can give you an example. One of the organizations that we work with, they have an issue with working together. So teamwork is a problem. So when they suggested that they want to send their employees and middle management or line managers to get courses in teamwork, it was refused by the higher up, because they say it's really basic. I mean, it's not trendy. Well, you do want to approve a team management, whatever team work program. So I think this is the common mistakes that we think it's happening. Sometimes if you conduct a thorough needs analysis, you will end up with basic programs. It's not a problem. Basic needs, and you have to go with it. That's the common mistake that we have seen.
Yes, I agree with you. Building up the correct infrastructure in the organization and having the buy-in from the management and the culture, which is there, really helps in avoiding these kind of mistakes. Yeah. My next question to you, Robert, would be, what is your advice? How do I become a coach?
I think it's a great career. And obviously a great question. There's lots of interest from particularly HR professionals and business leaders wanting to be coaches. I think the first step is probably visit our website. We've got lots of resources, not just to our members, but to everyone in general, about what is coaching, what it's not, some of the core competencies, so that you can see how you are aligned already with many of the skills that you're using. And so it's coachingfederation.org. So that's the org. That's the first step. Then finding a great accredited training program is an important step. Making sure that you have all the necessary formal training before you engage in coaching. And before you actually start training, you may want to also read. There's several good books available on coaching and business coaching and what you need to do. And then before you actually engage formally, maybe you want to try to do some coaching with your friends and family. And then obviously, if you work for a great organization that's building a coaching culture, then really raise your hand and volunteer to be part of a program that can assist you. We see that all the time where individuals volunteer to participate in a training program on coaching in an organization. And we've seen how they've progressed, and many of them are coaching on a full-time basis because the program has really increased tremendously. And the organization has benefited tremendously from this coaching initiative. So there are great opportunities. Raise your voice and really express your interest in becoming a coach.
Looks like a really great plan, and we'll see how we can really implement it, with starting with small batches on that, and we can really implement that. I would like to conclude the session by asking, getting the inputs from each one of you on your insights on the topic of the session. So our topic of the session was education and training, empowering workforce. So if each one of you can give me 2 minutes of their insight about the topic and what's the takeaway they are taking from this topic. Starting with you, Abdurrahman.
Let me say that I think development and education or development, let me say learning and development, is really crucial. I would say the key word is working collaboratively, working with and making alignment between different organizations within the country or ministries. I think this is the key. Working in solos will not fix the problem. I emphasize that.
Thank you, Abdurrahman. Nader?
Yes, so what I like the most, in this conference is the holistic perspective of the topic. So here we talk about the individual, we talk about the well-being of the employees, we talk about the future of the workplace, the challenge that face the organization, in not only in GCC, but globally. Also, let's say the coaching, which is the fastest growing industry after the IT. So here we talk about coaching, we talk about new trends, we talk about the challenge that we face in the workforce, upskilling and skilling the employees. So I like this holistic view, and it's a great selection of topic, and there are a lot of learning here. So thank you for the organizer, and thank you for all the participants.
Thank you, Nader. Robert?
Yeah, and I think in order for you to grow personally and professionally, we need to be educated, we need to learn, and have this continuous learning process internally, and work for organizations or find opportunities that will assist us in reaching our full potential, understanding who we are, be motivated to really learn and develop as individuals to help the organizations grow and continue to be successful.
Robert, Nader, and Abdurrahman, you've really been a great panelist to this session. I really enjoyed having you with me in this session, and I really got a lot of takeaways with me today from this session. By this, we are coming to conclude our session for today. Thank you once again for joining us, and I hope that everyone enjoyed this session and get really informative information from this session. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a lovely day.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
We have now come to our last session of the day, HR Tech and Future of Work. We have some great speakers lined up for the session, and to moderate this session, I would like to invite Mr. Abdurrahman Al-Sahel, Director HR, Institute of Public Administration. Abdurrahman Al-Sahel is an award-winning HR thought leader helping organizations drive operational and employee experience enhancement through the alignment of business and people strategies. Known for refining and implementing the strategic plan for HR and overseeing processes and programs supporting HR transformation. Mr. Abdulrahman, you can now start this session.
Thank you so much for the nice introduction. I also would like to thank the audience for being with us in our last session. I think it's going to be a really interesting session. We have really amazing speakers, and the topic is really great. We're going to start with the first topic, hybrid and model assessment, better assessment outcomes through the technology-psychology interaction. For this session, we're going to have Martin Adams. He's the Managing Director at Technology Middle East and Africa, formerly known as the Probel International. Martin is a talent management expert and chartered occupational psychologist who is helping leading organizations in Saudi Arabia and other GCC countries and internationally accelerate career development and learning. So we're going to start with Martin. Martin, the floor is yours.
So in the next 15 minutes, just showing you some of the insights into hybrid and modular assessment. It is a very big topic, and to show you some of the trends and developments in this space. By way of introduction, and thanks for the quick intro there, my name is Martin Adams. I'm the Director of Digital Solutions for Technology Middle East. There we go. It's a little bit, apologies folks. So the psychology, technology and continuum, talking through the blend there, looking at innovation and item design, single blended and modular assessment methodologies, and the impact of assessment. So just if we think back, folks, as hopefully the slides catch up in just a moment, you know, over the last almost sort of 100 years now in the world of work, psychology has dominated in terms of assessment practices, and the advances in psychometric practice is lots of good science going into the psychology of assessment. What's happened over the last sort of 20, 30 years with the rapid advancement in technology is that real rapid pace of development and the capacity of what we can support from a technology standpoint. The psychology technology continuum is really all about getting the right balance between the science and the psychology of what we do and the technology component. So not letting technology overtake and dominate what we do, not losing sight of the science in our assessment methodologies. So what we should be looking for is the sweet spot between the psychology and technology interaction, is ideally finding that's ideal balance between the science, the robustness, the validity in what we do, and the technology that supports it. And just to illustrate this with an example, I'm hoping the slides match with the what's on screen at the moment. In innovation and item design, many of you will be familiar with tools such as the Raven's progressive matrices. So an instrument first designed around abstract reasoning in the late 1930s. If we fast forward to look at what's actually been designed since around abstract reasoning, which is of the same ilk, not a lot of change within that. Whereas where are we heading now with the advances in technology, the capacity to bring in far more interactive and immersive test items and techniques. Now, this is not for a moment to say that we abandon the tests of old. They are very proven, very reliable, but we're being opened up to new possibilities in immersive tasks, be they more cognitive based, more personality and style based, reflective of the skills and competencies we are aiming to assess. Now, when we look at the traditional off-the-shelf assessments of old, many of you will be familiar with what we'd call sort of off-the-shelf or intact tests. These might be, personality questionnaires, motives and values, ability tests that we're familiar with and we've been knowing and using for some time. And these are still tried and tested. We have an intact assessment, which is able to measure through a vast number of items, typically a whole range of different competencies. One of the limitations of this, however, is that the item content is fixed. These are very long designed, validated, robust instruments. However, they can present an instrument which takes a long time for a candidate to complete potentially and doesn't necessarily tap into all the different areas that we want to or need to measure as part of our assessment methodology. What we've seen a move towards over recent years is more of a hybrid or blended assessment methodology, whereby we're combining different kinds of assessments. This might be a personality questionnaire, some cognitive tests, SJTs, situational judgment tests, as better and more holistic measures of the skills or competencies that we're trying to measure. The challenges within this is that we are sometimes introducing a very long and complex process, but I have to say, in our practice with Intelligy, quite often we are still using hybrid assessment methodologies as we get very, very good coverage of a vast range of competencies. And particularly with hiring or selection decisions of significant risk at senior levels, a hybrid or blended assessment methodology is increasingly important. What we found through the technology element here, not just bringing in the increased scientific rigor and the validity advantage of multiple assessment tools, but through technology, we can shift away from a traditional disjointed approach of having to launch assessments, run different assessments, and create quite a clunky, long-winded candidate experience, converting that into something that's far more seamless in the sense that individuals being assessed, whether they be internal candidates or external candidates or internal employees, we can create through integrated technology a far more unified experience, a seamless experience for recruiters, human resources, talent managers to administer and launch assessments and gather the integrated results of those into seamless reporting. The other technology advantage here, so that interaction between psychology and technology, is overcoming the disparate range of reports and outputs. So making sense of that psychometric or assessment data for talent decision makers, for busy managers, for leaders, for HR folk. And again, through the technology advantage here, pulling together some very tightly integrated range of multi-source reporting. Through this hybrid assessment methodology as well, we get far better prediction in assessment at the same time. That by combining different psychometric measures and some of the data we have from our own research is showing the prediction of learning agility or mindset, is that we get far better prediction of these qualities through a combination of different instruments. The downside of this, however, is it does create quite a long experience for candidates. And this is where I'm excited to share a bit more about modularity. We have our focus at Intelligy is very much about creating what we call content modules. So by breaking apart assessments into validated subsets of items, we can measure specific competencies and skills that are important for the role. So we're really creating building blocks for modular assessments here. So gone are the days of needing to pull together multiple sort of 20, 30-minute tools. We can bring in little, almost like testlets or micro assessments, what we're calling content modules to assess specific competencies. And by combining a number of these content modules, we can actually bring together in a very short form, a very targeted and positive candidate experience assessment to measure the key criteria desired. What this also enables is more configurable through technology, more configurable multi-source reporting. So by combining different assessment components or modules, we can integrate those in really targeted fit-for-purpose reporting and outputs to help people make good decisions based on the assessment findings. Just to share finally with you in the final moments, the impact of this, and what we're noticing through a modular or combination of these component module assessments, in far shorter time, we can achieve far greater predictive validity. So this is an example coming out of our R&D team in the US, just focusing on one area of sales focus and call center executives, of predicting sales focus. We found through a personality style instrument taking around 18 minutes, a correlation coefficient rather, on the lower side of 0.18, situational judgment tests, more so at 0.21, more predictive of sales focused performance. But what we found by breaking those component elements, those different standalone assessments down into modular components, was we created, in a way, a micro assessment consisting of both personality and situational judgment items in a far shorter and more candidate-friendly experience, achieving a far greater predictive validity against these this particular sales criteria. So takeaways, folks, the message is, don't get bamboozled by the technology, don't compromise on the psychology, leverage technology prudently in what you do, make sure it's adding value and has utility, and strive for that sweet spot in the psychology-technology interaction. Apologies, folks, for any technical glitches there. I hope you've taken away, and I look forward to the panel session very shortly.
Thank you, Martin, for the presentation. It's really thorough and rich. And we always have technical issues coming up. As we use technology more, we start facing more challenges. Thank you, Martin. Our next speaker is Abdelmalik Al-Bloushi. Abdelmalik is the Group Chief People Officer. Before that, Abdelmalik worked in, he's the Chief People Officer at Oman Post Company, and he's leading the transformation at the company since 2016. He has an extensive experience in HR in both private and public sector for more than 17 years in logistics, transformation, communication, energy. So we're gonna start with Abdelmalik and his presentation. So Abdelmalik, the floor is yours.
Okay, I did not hear your introduction. That's, I think it was.
I said a lot of good things about you.
Okay, then that's very good. That's very good. Very good. Thank you for having me. My name is Abdelmalik Al-Bloushi. I'm the Chief People Officer of Asiad Group. The topic is the right talents, and I'm going to focus on something very specific. And of course, talent in general is a very, very wide topic. And considering that I only have 15 minutes, I want to talk on something very, very specific. Considering the challenges that we all know we are facing either now or in the past or in the future, always there is a challenge around talent and talent acquisition and talent retention, etc. And we've already heard in the news and during Corona and after Corona, the whole phenomena of the great resignation or the great stay. It depends which terminology you want to use. Now, this is putting a lot of pressure on companies on how to retain talents, and of course there's a lot of ideas and thinking happening around how do we manage talent considering the situation. So I'm gonna take you through my presentation. It's a very light presentation. There's a number of statistics. They are all based on the American market, but it also gives us an indication that this wave, I'm sure, is going to hit us at a point of time. It might be a little bit delayed, but talent retention is an issue, and I'm sure that most of you are facing it. Certainly, we are facing it here in Oman, and I'm going to talk about how employee mobility is important for talent and why this is not happening and what's happening around this area. So, a number of stats. I4CP have done a research in the past 12 months on companies in America, they have seen, companies have seen, large organizations, 76% have seen increase in attrition in the past year during Corona. 71% the respondent, they're saying that they're facing difficulties in attracting talents due to labor and skill availability. So there's a scarcity around talent also in the market. Also, the second top problem that they're facing is the capability around leadership and bench strength. So they don't have enough talent in their bench strength when you look at succession planning, but also leadership capability seems to be there is an issue of availability around leadership. Where this talent is coming from and where the attrition is happening, and if we look who's leaving organizations, by generation Z is the largest. 41% of the people who are leaving, they are Gen Z, and I think this is probably is normal, considering that this generation is they have other priorities. There's a well-being, a total reward concept that will impact them. But it's interesting that this generation is the largest generation that is leaving organizations. From demographics, 34% is more women, and of course there might be various reasons, but this is something that might impact diversity in organizations. By level, frontline workers, considering the majority, the pressure that they are facing, because they are the customer-facing organizations, considering the 2-year Corona, and I think there's a lot of pressure on this level, on these workers in the front line, and you're talking a very large percentage, 68% of workers, frontline workers are leaving. By tenure, 1 to 3 years, employees who are leaving, 42% of them are early joiners. So people with 1 or 3 years, 2 to 3 years, that means that there is a high turnover on people who are fresh and new coming into the organization. Could be this is related to organization, but this is a very wide general survey that indicates that people don't stay very long in organizations. Now, what exactly we're talking about here? Why talent mobility is important? Now, talent mobility, usually when we are introducing something like this, it's also linked to culture change. To change an organization to have fluidity in talent mobility is a drastic and deep change in organization. Organizations have seen successful implementation, have seen performance increase by 7.5 times than organizations that were not successful in these implementations. Now, this stat does not talk specifically about talent mobility, but it talks about cultural change in organization. And when you do that, talent mobility is one part of this culture change. Now, what are we talking about when we say talent mobility? The concept, and I don't know if you want to reflect on your own organization, there might be some organizations that are successful unintentionally, and there might be some organizations that are doing it intentionally, and I would love to see if there are organizations who are actually doing this. Now, talent mobility is very specific in how easy it is for staff to find an opportunity within the organization than outside the organization. The way the trend is, the way we see organization function, is very easy for an employee to get a job outside the organization than move within the organization. And there are a lot of inhibitors for people to move within an organization. The concept is, if you offer mobility within organization, not only hierarchy or promotions or but the opportunity for people to experience different roles, different challenges, different projects, different areas of expertise, that will encourage them to stay in the organization because you're introducing change in their career. And that's the concept of talent mobility. Now, what do we need to do that? Now, in ASEAN, we have a major project in our 5-year strategy, People's 5-year strategy, that is specifically focused on enhancing employee mobility. Now, of course, we are a group of multiple companies, but we do believe this is extremely important, where employee move is seamless across the organization. We offer opportunities to employees. We have a visibility of our talents across the organization, so we can move people around, and we can offer employees opportunities for growth, for development, for change of path. Now, what do we need? Now, these 4 steps are, they're broad, they are specific, but they are not everything. There's a lot of work that needs to be done around these 4 elements. Now, what do we need to do this? We need to define it. We need to define employee mobility in our organization. So whatever policy we're gonna put, whatever process we're gonna put around this, has to be clear and transparent, and everyone needs to know how this is gonna work. Majority of the organization, they don't have that. We have to have visibility and tracking around openings and opportunities in the organization, around our top talents, and also around skills. So there has to be a skills database. We need to know what skills are available in this organization. And there's a concept of marketplace, a concept of a skill marketplace. So the provision of a marketplace in the organization where employees can offer their skills for different, so they are visible across the organization. So if you have openings and projects and opportunities versus skills that are available in our organization, so employees can actually opt for certain projects and opening. At the same time, managers or project owners, they also can opt for specific skills across the organization. And that will provide a great opportunity for visibility, for transparency, but also for utilizing the resources, and most importantly, retention of these top talent in the organization. 3, we will need purposeful development. So employees have to be developed towards these, these opportunities or these projects. I think we need to offer employees the flexibility to use to utilize resources to develop themselves in areas of interest. For example, we have ship staff. We had a ship officer who came to us, and he says, "I love electricity." He's not an electrician, but I would like to venture into this line of business, and I can help on board of ships where I can, do electrical work. We actually opened the floor for him to say, what? Yes, we can actually pay for your electrical courses. Let's develop that side of you. We had people who are in commercial who love 3D printing, and we would want them to venture into that and start developing their capability around 3D printing, for example. So the Internet of Things, the same concept. Last but not least, incentives for managers. Now, we all know that the first person who is going to stop top talent of moving from their own department are the managers themselves. And this is generally the case everywhere. If someone comes and wants to push a top talent from your area, usually managers will resist. So there has to be some incentives that are provided for manager to encourage employee mobility for the greater good, of course, of the organization, and retaining top talent into the organization. I wanted to make this very specific, crisp, considering the time limitation we have, and I we'll open it up for discussion. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Malik, for the presentation and the data and the insights that you have provided. We will have the questions at the end of this session. We can have a QA session. So thank you so much, Abdul Malik, and we appreciate what you have presented. Next, we have Atam Godra. Atam is a seasoned professional. He worked across several sectors and scaled up startups up to 10 times in terms of people capability, talent pipeline, and succession planning. He has been identified as an official SHRM influencer in 2020, HR influencer by Economic Times in 2021 and 2022. Atam is one of the HR leaders who have been working on several projects and has a huge influence in the industry. He will speak about future of work and leadership. So, Atam.
Hi. I need to just make it not blur. Perfect, I'm here.
Got it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're waiting. So, we're waiting for your presentation. Are you going to share something or?
Yes, I'm going to share my screen.
Okay, cool.
Give me a second. Here it is. I think you can see my screen also, the presentation here.
Yes.
Perfect. I'll stand up. Yeah.
So I think we're good to go. Yes.
Great. How much time we have here?
We have 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Great. I will keep the timer on. 35 my local time. And how do I say your name? I'm sorry for that.
My name is Abdul Rahman.
Oh, Abdul Rahman. Thank you very much, Abdul Rahman. And thank you very much, everyone. I'm very happy and very excited to be here on this call today. And we are going to talk about a very interesting topic in today's discussion. So before that, a little bit introduction of myself. My name is Atma Godara, and I lead production HR for the India and the Australia geography. I'm based out of Mumbai, India, and I work with Netflix. And today we'll talk about how the future of work is evolving, specifically after the pandemic, and what kind of leadership we expect, we want to have once we are heading into test phase. Yeah. So, okay, let's talk about future of work first of all. Remember, so I come from a city called Mumbai in India, where we have the monsoons, the rainy season for 4 months in a year. And during those times, people really struggle to go to offices. And other than that, I have worked in a manufacturing sector, in a manufacturing industry, where typically you spend 6 days in the office, you come in the morning, you leave in the evening. The pre-pandemic world was very different, where people used to spend lots of time in the offices, and work from home, remote working, hybrid working were unheard concepts. There were very few companies, there were very few organizations where people used to work from home, people used to work from anywhere, they used to travel in their work. But cut to the pandemic, everything has been changed. Now, most of the traditional organizations, they also realize that working from anywhere is quite possible. So that's comes the hybrid workplace. One of my very good friend of mine who heads the HR function for a global tech firm, their firm has done a survey with around 100 plus odd organizations. And they wanted to ask people that we are giving you 3 options. Option A, work from office. Option B, work from anywhere. And option C, hybrid working. As in, when you work from wherever you want to work, but you come in to the office. When there is a get together, you come for the offsite and you try to spend time together. 97% of the surveyor had chose hybrid work environment. If I talk about India specifically, we have now 100 unicorns in the country, which is a very big number. And one of the promising unicorn has recently launched remote first. Another US-based organization we have here, they have globally launched it. If you talk about Airbnb, they have already gone on the work from anywhere model. So hybrid working is the future. No matter what industry you belong to, no matter which country you belong to, no matter what function you belong to, hybrid work is going to be the future for us. That is first and the foremost thing. Now let's talk about the gig economy. I remember I come from another industry. I was working in the hospitality industry. And we have worked a lot on the gig economy prior to the pandemic, where we were hiring. For example, we used to have these properties where we need photographers who come for a very short time, click these photographs for us, and share these photographs across all the property owners and to their company. So these people, they would typically work with us whenever a new property comes on board. So these people typically were the gig workers. I was talking to one of my friend last week from Mondelez. We all know Mondelez. They are known for delicious chocolates and the biscuits. They have implemented the gig economy. So why I have mentioned Mondelez here, because in FMCG sector, which is typically a traditional sector, having gig workers is a very, very big thing. So having said that, after pandemic, people really don't want to work in a 9 to 5 kind of a typical job, 5 days or 6 days a week. They want to work on their own terms. That's why gig economy is flourishing. It is going to be the future of work. When we talk about the older generations, our parents, our grandparents, they used to work like, joining one organization, working from morning to evening, working for the entire week and the entire month. And throughout their lifetime with one organization, time has changed. People want to work across multiple organizations. People want to work across multiple projects. People want to work across multiple geographies. So gig economy is the future. The last point, what I want to talk about here in the employees market here is very, very important. When we talk about the pre-pandemic days, we have seen that it was the employer which was negotiating that, hey, today I'm giving you a job in Dubai. You are based out of Qatar or Mumbai or London, but you come to Dubai. Today, employees are like, after we have seen the great resignation in US specifically, across all the countries, employees are deciding, they're like, hey, okay, if you're giving me this job, I will decide when I want to travel. If you're giving me this job, I will let you know when I want to be in your country or in your geography. So today, employee has more bargaining power than the employer. Specifically 2-3 reasons. COVID has enabled this. Second, lots of VCs, the venture capitalists, are pumping money into the startups. Third, the world is evolving, and now we have Gen Z work people in the workplace. With that, I will move to the next slide, which talks about, with this kind of work environment, with this kind of future work, what kind of leadership we need here. We need leaders who lead by example. Gone are the days where just do the talking, but you're not doing anything. People have to roll up their sleeves. They have to get their hands dirty. They have to get on the floor. They have to lead from the front to succeed as a leader. Becoming a sheer manager is not sufficient. It was never sufficient. Second piece, what we talk about is servant leadership. It's like, you lead people from the base. You let people do. It's like, what is my next line? Tell what to do, not how to do it. You hire smart people, and then you let them figure out how to do things. Gone are the days when there was a scope of micromanagement, when people used to talk about, I have given this task in the morning, and we used to have this. I remember I was worked with one of the semiconductor company long back, and where we used to have this DSR, daily status report. Every evening we used to fill that report that, hey, this is how much I have worked. And we used to share that sheet with our manager. Of course, gone are the days where your manager is telling you in the morning to finish some of the tasks, and you're updating your manager the same by the evening. Last piece, which I want to talk here about, and the most important piece, in the interest of time, we are left with 3 minutes. This is a super important aspect, is psychological safety. With COVID, without COVID, you want to work in a workplace where you want to be super productive. You want to feel engaged, and you want to feel that you're adding some value, or you want to feel that there's some output of the work you're delivering. And how do we do that? By providing psychological safety. And how do we provide psychological safety? It is the most crucial task for any leader. When you are the leader of your team, one has to be really empathetic. I was reading another article, and I really support by that when we talk about talent management, we have to do away with historical assessment and evaluations. 3 things which this article talks about. which leaders has to have to develop not only talent, but to provide the psychological safeties for them. These are the DQ, CQ, and EQ. DQ is nothing but drive quotient, how much drive you have to enable your team to do the work. The EQ, which is, of course, we all know emotional quotient, how much empathy you have, how much emotions you understand of the team, of your emotion to process through that. And last piece is cognitive quotient, how analytical and skillful you are when it comes to solving the problems and applying those things. Around these factors, one thing which is very important, the leaders which have to have is what we talk about handling and rather being comfort in remote workplace or a hybrid workplace. When you have your team which is not sitting on your front desk, when you have a team which is working remotely, when you have team with whom you're connecting through Zoom or your Microsoft Teams or Google Meet, one has to be superbly comfortable as a leader to connect these people. And that's where the leader's job becomes more interesting, because they have to come together and connect the entire team. Because what problem we have seen during the pandemic, that when people are connecting through the devices, through different collaborative tools, it becomes very transactional. People come together for some work, they finish the work and they go back. But post-pandemic, one has to keep really this in mind that, as a leader, you have to make it more collaborative in terms of people should come together and trust each other. That's the most important thing. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I rest my case. We have been all 15 minutes. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Abdul Rahman, having me here. Thank you.
Thank you, Atma, for your great presentation. It was quick but informative. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Again, I just to remind you that we're going to have the Q&A session at the end of this. Next, we have Bahrath. He is currently the group head of employee engagement at Abdul Latif Jameel Group. It's more than 24 companies spread across 10 countries. He has more than 12 years of experience and experts in areas of employee engagement, talent, and performance management. He is an MBA in HR and started his career as an HR consultant and worked with multiple global organizations across different HR projects. He has a really extensive experience in HR, specifically in engagement or employee engagement. Welcome, Bahrath. It's really nice to have you.
Thank you.
Bahrath, we're really interested to hear about your topic, implementing a successful employee engagement program to drive a culture of empowerment and improvement.
So engagement is a topic which is really close to my heart. So we all understand the theory of engagement. So what I'm going to do is talk about a lot more practical element of it, share some best practices which we have implemented at Abdul Latif Jameel and how we have made engagement possible. And I feel there is a lot of difference we have made in terms of engagement in the last 3 years. And I really want to share that with all of you. So let me just share my screen. Okay. So as an HR professional, at different points in time, we might have faced any of these issues like low participation rate to the engagement survey, maybe low levels of engagement across the organization. Even when we are doing a lot of activities, there is no improvement in scores. Or sometimes managers are just not interested, managers, leaders, to implement the action plans. They see it as a chore and don't want to do anything more than just the minimum. And also sometimes the engagement index is not giving us the exact pulse of what is happening at the ground, right? So as an HR professional, we would have faced all or many of these kind of issues. However, what if I told you, so this is what we were able to do at Abdul Latif Jameel. Since 2019, in 2018, when so we have been running engagement surveys at ALJ for a lot of time. In 2018, the maximum we reached was 85%. But beginning 2019, it jumped to 97. percentage plus. So, and for the past 3 years, we have been able to maintain this such high participation rate. And I'm talking about covering 10,000 odd employees. Our engagement index in this period has gone up by 9 percentage points, and all our managers create their action plan within 2 weeks, right? So how was this possible? This is what I'm going to cover in the subsequent slides. So what all these years while we were doing engagement, we really wanted to understand. In 2018, we wanted to do a reset, and that is where we changed the way in which we looked at engagement. For us, this is a model with which we have gone about when we talk about engagement, that engagement is all about creating a highly productive work environment. That is, when you come to work every day, it is not about feeling good, feeling happy. Yes, that is important. But at the end of the day, we all come to work to be productive. So can the work environment make you contribute at a manner in which it is highly productive, so that it becomes a win-win situation for both of them? So, for example, a typical organization exists to cater to our customers, and everything which you do can be categorized into two major functions, whether it is to attract customers or to retain customers. And that is done by our frontline people. And they get their direction from the managers and supervisors, whose role is to create a better today, right? So this cohort of the frontline and the managers and is called as a micro C, a micro culture. So as many as there are these teams and these manager and frontline cohort, that many cultures exist. So each manager creates his own smaller culture in that particular environment. So where do these managers get their direction from? They get that from the leadership team, whose job is to paint a compelling vision of tomorrow, right? So they produce the vision of 3 years, 5 years, what we are going to do, how we are going to stay ahead of the competition and everything. And that gives a direction of what we are going to do today to accomplish that, and which is what drives managers' decision. So the leadership team operates at a company level, and that is what we call as a macro C. So what we say engagement is truly is about alignment of this micro culture and that macro culture. So imagine all these individual teams, if they are doing in the same direction, or if they are all aligned to what the vision of the leadership team is, then we have a team which is truly performing. Then we have a system which is moving very smooth without any hiccups, right? So this model is what we call as leads to motivation of work, increases commitment to the organization. So once we align this individual cultures which exists in each team to the macro culture, what we are saying is no, that should not be just one culture which exists. You can have your own culture as a manager with your team basis your leadership style, but this needs to be moving in the same direction as what we are going for in the organization. So I understand this is still at a theoretical level. How did we make this happen at ALJ? We created a program and we called it as Cultivate. For us, cultivate as a word stands for two words, culture plus activate. So for us, it's about creating that culture of feedback wherein associates, so we call our employees associates, where employees can feel motivated to come and give feedback. And then we activate a culture which empowers them and which makes them engaged. So the purpose of Cultivate is all about empowerment. So the way we position it as the entire Cultivate program, it's not about engagement, it's about empowerment. That is, all the managers and people are empowered with information and tools to create a work environment which you would want to work in, which you are, you can shape it the way you want, and hence support the cultural development of the organization. So empowerment is how we position it as, which leads to improvement, and you decide the way, the manager and the team, the discussion together, you decide how your work environment will operate and how it will contribute to the organization. So this gave us a clear outcomes in terms of people will be able to identify what part is working, what part is not working, and hence what are the actions we should take. So how did we going one step further, these are the 8 different processes which we implemented to make this happen. First and foremost was awareness. All these years, there was a big noise which was played out in terms of whenever an engagement survey would be launched. So we said that we should live a communication campaign throughout the year, right? And the involvement of leadership was our most important aspect. So not only did we get involved our owner, Mr. Jamil, but we also involved our VP HR and message from the CEO. So once we were able to get different people at various levels talk about the same things and the importance and stress the importance of engagement in their conversation, people started to realize that this is something which is extremely important, which is why the management is also supporting it. And then we also, so this all became only a one-sided communication. So how do we do a two-way communication, which is where we got in webinars, and we also had manager meetings. So we had specific meetings which we had managers for them to conduct, and we gave them a script that you have to talk about engagement on a specific time interval, and all these meetings were tracked to ensure that managers are able to communicate what the organization is trying to do, and then understand what are some of the fears, what is the feedback of the people, and how it is going. And that can then be used to improve the entire process. Flexibility. This was the first time when we decided that we will do something on engagement on our own. All this while we have partnered with big consulting organizations, but this time we decided that for us to reflect a culture of what we want at ALJ, we wanted that flexibility, and that is where while we based our engagement on scientific models, but then the way we had worded so that it is simple, easy to understand, and reflects the language which we use at ALJ, so that people know exactly who are they keeping in mind, what is the area they are giving their feedback on, becomes very, very relatable for people when they are taking the survey. Also, we included the ALJ cultural elements, values, and code of conduct. So it gives us the flexibility to choose to update the items and to reflect the priorities which we want our managers to do when they are working on engagement. Timing and frequency. So one of the things which we are extremely focused on is that whenever the gap between when the survey is conducted to the results is extremely short. So now we have made the process so efficient that the next day the results are available for people from the engagement survey for them to access. And the survey is, and it's not a one-time survey where at the beginning of the year you give and then there is a complete silence, to ensure that people's attention is kept. So what gets monitored, there will be progress. So we have a pulse survey every quarter to ensure that managers' focus on engagement is not removed. People understand that their action plan is working or not, and hence they can take countermeasures in case something which is not working. So how do you make, as we said, Cultivate is an empowerment tool, and which is given as information to all our people, and that is done through simple, easy to understand, easy to navigate dashboards which give you all the information which is necessary for your team, for you to understand what are the levels, and for you to create action plans, track them, give them updates, delegate them to all your teams. So this was really important for us, because from an archaic system where it was extremely difficult for you to understand, and a system which will take a training program for you to know how to do it, moving to a dashboard which is extremely simple, so that even a layperson can just log into it and understand what exactly is needed to be done without any special training. All this while, during the entire program, the focus has always been on action planning. So, so engagement is a big part of the performance management system for managers. However, we don't put the engagement score. What we put is that 75% of your actions, whatever you identify, needs to be implemented. not only at a manager level, but at a business unit level and at an organization level. So the head of the organization also has this score that 75% of whatever actions they had planned to implement in the year, they should have completed it. So this ensures that there is no gaming of the system. There is no benefit of making people give a score in a particular direction. However, the most important aspect of an engagement survey, which is taking action, that is what gets rewarded. Also, to ensure that people are creating smart action plans which are which make sense, and also something which will impact engagement, not from a policing standpoint, but from a quality standpoint. We quality check 100% of the action plans to ensure that they adhere to a particular standard. And managers are also provided. So in-house, we have created a set of 8 videos, handbooks, quick reference guides, and an e-learning module for managers to go and understand in depth what is engagement, what is it that they are required to do, how do they go about doing it, how can they give feedback, how can they create an action plan, how can they implement it, how can they track it, all that in a very simple to understand and in multiple languages support available. Also, apart from that, there is live, we have trained from business about 25 coaches who are available for people to be, if they need any further support, these engagement coaches get involved. All this wouldn't have been possible if there was no rigorous monitoring or follow-up. The process rigor is what really stands out. People understand that there is these gets reported at the highest level, and that's the seriousness with which the management takes it, and not just HR, the business also sees it becomes a push and pull mechanism, and creates a sense of urgency, wherein there is healthy competition between departments on who becomes first in terms of achieving 100% participation, 100% in creating action plans and implementing action plans. So that kind of feeling we are able to create, again, not through a sense of coercion, but as a sense of pride of being number one internally. All this gets recognized. So best managers, and we have a lot of showrooms where we sell Toyota cars. So best location, on parameters like survey participation, action planning metrics, net promoter score internally and on customers. So as you can see, there is limited to no impact of the engagement score on identifying a most engaged managers. So we really wanted to remove that element and put the outcome elements. That is, are you doing your action planning? How is it making people to recommend ALJ as a great place to work? And what is the impact on customers? Which is what we want to do, achieve with engaged managers and engaged teams. So recognition is based on that. Also, each year, the bottom 10% of managers are put through an enhancement program, which is a 3-month program where they have to create monthly action plans, and they are assigned an engagement coach, which helps them to improve the way in which they are doing engagement. So yes, so this is my last slide. As you have seen, we have done a lot of activities on engagement, based it on what we has worked, and some of it might seem simple, but when all these simple things come together is when great things happen, and that's what we have seen at ALJ. We have consistently been able to receive a good participation, and people understand what engagement is and how is it making a difference, and have a workforce which is highly motivated. So, Samara, thank you. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Behrath, for the presentation and your insights about it. I really enjoyed what you have presented. Thank you so much. Now we're going to move to the Q&A part of this session. I got a few questions for each presenter. We're going to go in order, starting with Martin. Martin, I got a question. Should we be focusing on the candidate candidate experience as the most important factor in assessment selection and design?
Yeah, and apologies for the camera not working there, folks, but the absolutely candidate experience is extremely important. So when we factor in what are we actually trying to create here is when we're looking in the interest of assessment of people, be it external candidates or internal employees, there's very few people out there who find any assessment experience, I think, fun. It's always a little bit daunting. And those amongst us, even thinking back to our school days, no one particularly loves being evaluated or measured in that sense. So we have a duty to create, and some of my peers here on the panel today talked about psychological safety as well. So creating that psychologically safe environment by communicating through the assessment process, what is it that the candidate or individual will go through? What can they do to prepare? Providing clear instructions and guidance, providing that opportunity for feedback. But the reason I say it's very important, but not the overriding factor, is any assessment is there for a purpose of predicting or evaluating something in particular. So we've seen a real trend over the last few years and a shift towards very kind of whizzy game-based assessments, things that are very fun, that often get a really positive candidate response in their feedback of their experience of doing the assessment. It's fun, it's engaging, there's lots of video, lots of technology. I had a client recently talk about using virtual reality to create something that was very engaging from an assessment standpoint. All of these things are good, and as long as we balance that candidate experience, create that psychologically safe and positive experience with the utility of measurement and assessing something, that is ultimately what we need to come back to make sure we don't lose sight of robust assessment. By all means, candidate experience is important, but let's, as with the psychology technology continuum, not lose sight of the need for robustness.
Thank you, Martin. My second question will go to Abdelmalik. The question is, what obstacles top talent mobility in organizations?
I think I did shed some light on the obstacles usually impacts mobility of talent within an organization. You know what? The first one is the manager, who are not, of course, usually encouraged for their top talent to move from their own area. The other one is the employees might not move for whatever reason. Could be geographic reasons, could be preference, visibility of opportunities. We do always say that organizations, we have great mobility, but then if you dig deeper, you probably would find you don't have a clear process for it, and the process is not transparent. You don't have a specific platform where people, can share or see the opportunities, the projects. So I think there is a lot around transparency of this process and the opportunities. We also probably, in some cases, you might find out that this accountability is not given to anyone. So nobody owns the process, and I think these are some of the issues that might organization face that inhibit mobility of people in organizations.
Thank you, Abdelmalik, for the answering these questions. I will move to the question is, what kind of organizations succeed in the new world?
Thank you, Abdurrahman, for that question. That's a great question. I think if I have to break down the kind of organizations which would succeed in the new environment or in the future work, first would be the collaborative workspaces. It's a collaborative. When you have to make a decision, it shouldn't be top down, that the CEO or the founder is taking the decision, people are just following it. It has to be collaborative, that one has to seek inputs from all the employees, from all the people who are getting impacted. Second piece of it would be, as I was said in the beginning also, when you are having a workspace and the culture where people are not told how to do it, they are only told what to do. Let people decide. how to do it. Third, this would be a place where people are provided psychological safety. Super, super critical. And I think in the beginning of the conversation, Martin has also emphasized on this in one of the question, answering one of the question. This is essential for this. So these are 3 pillars which are super critical to have a future workplace.
Thank you, Atma. Next, we're going to move to Rath. I have a question for you. What has been the key driver of success in your engagement strategy?
Okay, so I would say leadership support, ensuring that all the leaders speak the same language, give their weight behind the initiative, communication and awareness is making people understand why engagement is important, why as a manager you need to engage your team members. And number 3, supporting that with a system which is easy to measure engagement at regular intervals. People can go access their results easily, create action plans. So supporting them with a platform, with reading materials, with knowledge, and developing those managerial skills. Right? So I would say these 3 pillars of leadership support, communication, and a support structure. Those were possibly the main pillars what made the entire program successful.
Thank you, Bahrath. So we're going to go back to Martin. I got a question over here. A modular assessment appears to be the way of the future. Does this mean legacy, traditional assessments all will become obsolete?
Thanks for the question there. And no, not at all. I think it's not to convey there that the assessments and the practices we've been doing for decades now, by no means do they become obsolete. And it's interesting. So Abdul Malik talked a bit about creating almost like a skills audit or a map internally of where talent and skills lie within the organization. In fact, achieving this through very broadband measures of assessment through a whole range of different skills and competencies is so important in that sense. So when we look at the assessments that you may be familiar with, your personality instruments like PAPI, WAVE, Hogan, etc., those are supported by decades of data and research, and they've evolved accordingly, and different cognitive ability tests as well. By no means are they obsolete. And if anything, and in our own practice, we're often combining those in the hybrid assessment techniques, as I mentioned, to get full coverage of the skills and competencies we need. Modular assessment, on the other hand, what that provides is ultimate flexibility and measurement and duration. So where we're trying to get that optimal balance between candidate experience, and we know very specifically what the skills, the competencies, the capabilities are we're trying to assess for, we can cherry pick through content modules exactly what specific elements we want to assess for and create something that's very, very efficient and refined. The outcome of that is it's something that's far more defensible, as it's directly linked only to the job relevant criteria, and something that we all need to have in mind through the lens of diversity and inclusion. It actually increases our objectivity because we are tapping only into those skills, those qualities, those attributes that are essential for job performance. So I talk about the legal defensibility, that's the business imperative, but also our moral imperative, our ethical imperative, to be assessing people, giving everyone an equal opportunity by focusing and assessing only those elements which are really essential to job success. So in summary, no, by no means are the assessments of old obsolete. I use them almost sort of day to day in my sort of assessment and coaching practices and helping people develop. But as we evolve to the future, as we think about that balance between psychology and the interaction with technology, it gives us far more choice to optimize and create more refined, more efficient assessment. But by no means does it obsolete what's gone of old.
Thank you, Martin, for clearing up this. I'm going to go back to Abdul Malik. You talked about the right talents, and getting the right talents. So the question that I got over here, what's the steps need to be done in that matter?
We've covered the steps in general. I think the first thing we need to do is we need to define a process of how people can move within organizations. We have to have a policy, and we have to communicate this across. It has to be transparent to everyone. We need also to have visibility over, everything that is happening in the organization, from a supply and demand, from the supply of jobs, projects, opportunities, to the demand of skills and interests. So that has to be there some way or another. From HR also, the HR has to have a visibility over their talent, skills. So a skills database has to be available, so they know what are the trajectory of skills across the organization. And again, as I mentioned in the presentation, the last piece of the puzzle is the manager. And I've already seen, for example, in Abdulatif Jameel, the engagement, they are incentivizing and recognizing manager for the right thing. And I think here is the same concept, is that we have to incentivize managers who are pro employee mobility, who are helping people move and grow and dedicate their time for certain projects or opportunities. So I think if those are the four broad steps that need to be taken into consideration.
Great, thank you, Abdul Malik, for sharing us steps in a summary. I'm going to move to Atma with another question. What do I do as a leader to be effective? This is the question. So as a leader, what I need to do to be effective?
Another great question. Thank you, Abdul, for that. Okay, the debate is between the two things. First is how do I become an effective leader? Second could be around that, how do I become a leader, not a manager? First and foremost is create a thinking environment. Let's say thinking environment is like, let people think. Do not interrupt them. It's entire theory. How do we create thinking environment for our team, for our colleagues? Very, very important. Second, be a good listener. When I say be a good listener, try to listen what is not being said by your team, not by your employees. It's not just the words or the verbatim. Don't take it on face. Try to understand what they're going through and what they're trying to say, which is not being expressed through the words. Third thing is like, be a little empathetic. Try to be in their shoes. You have a big team, for example, in your organization or in your organization. Few years back as a leader, you were in that position. Try to understand, be a little empathetic. That is very, very important. And the last piece, last but not the least, is that, walk the talk, maintain that consistency. If you're promising something, deliver to your team on that. That's how they will trust you, and they will be ready to do whatever you want them to do.
Thank you, Atma, for making it simple and effective. I got the last question for Behrat, talking about on engagement and sharing the experience with Abdulatif Jameel. What would you recommend to others who are keen to start a similar journey as you showed us with their organization? So what the recommendations that you will give us?
So one thing is to have a clear strategy of what you really want to do, right? I mean, you have to really start with what does engagement mean for you as an organization. Of course, there is a definition of engagement, but what are the behaviors you want your managers to exhibit? What is appropriate for your culture? How is it relevant to you? So once we start with that, that creates the base for an understanding what are the behaviors can be which you would want to drive, and what are those which you do not want to drive, and hence becomes easier for subscription from your leadership team. So first thing would be to identify, understand what works for you as an organization, in terms of engagement, then getting management support, unless and until your leadership believes that engagement will work. That is the most important one, I feel, because elsewhere we have seen, and in our group as well, that once there was only a token support from the top man, things did not go as planned. But once we were able to overcome that and truly show value on why engagement is important at the leadership level and what is the difference it can make. So that connection to those business outcomes and the impact at the leadership level is what is required for them to believe in this entire aspect. That would be two. And three, you can start extremely simple and easy. Engagement is all about getting feedback and having conversation. So you don't need a fancy system. You don't need to research different models. All the models talk about similar things in different formats. So choose one or develop a new one which you can take and run. And you can even use Excel to run your engagement study. But the most important aspect of engagement is managers having a conversation on the work environment with their team members. However you can make it happen is best. And you don't need a very fancy system is what we have learned. Even a simple way for you to measure feedback and then making people sit and have that dialogue. If you can do that, then you're well on the way of engaging the people.
Thank you, Partha. At the end, I would like to thank our speakers. It's really informative session. Personally, I enjoyed it. I learned. So thank you so much to Martin, Abdelmalik, Atma, and Partha for your great presentations and sharing with us your extensive experience. Thank you so much. And at the end of this session, I call the organizers to take over as we're done with this session. Thank you again. And hopefully we'll get an opportunity to meet in other conferences or next year with this conference. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the moderation. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I would like to add that over the day, we have had 2,000 plus visitors across the region, which makes this event very successful. I would like to take this opportunity once again who's been part of the second edition of Qatar HR Conference. This would not have been possible without the support of our sponsors. So once again, thanks to Talogi Middle East, Talent Management Partner, Elevate, Silver Sponsor, Qatar HR Forum, the Knowledge Partner, Bay.com, the recruitment partner, and of course our media partners, Marhaba, Qatar Living Jobs, and Isle of Qatar. We are not done here. Next year, we will have the Qatar HR Conference 2023 as a live event, and we'll also launch the first Qatar HR Awards. On behalf of Next Fairs and ZMZ events, we thank you again and look forward to your support for our future event.